Let's go. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Tablada. I am with the Marine Reconnaissance Foundation. I'm honored today to have a couple of incredible Americans and teammates on the line for our Veterans Post-Traumatic Stress Discussion Part 2. The focus of today's discussion is really going to be focused on a teammate and a respected brother, Terry Duffield, who is going to talk about his personal experience dealing with combat in Somalia, dealing with caustic individual relationships that led to some crisis in his life, and how he was able to come out of that to be clean, sober, and successful. This is one of the most inspiring veteran recovery stories that I have personally experienced. Terry is a good friend of mine. So Terry's on the line, but also with us on the line today is Erick Miyares. Erick is a retired Sergeant Major, retired a year ago from the USASOC Special Mission Unit organizations. We have William Negley. William is a former CIA case officer that is the founder of Sound Off. And we have my brother and teammate, Jason Morrison, who just published his book yesterday, The Perfect Fucking Life. And he is also working veterans outreach and post-traumatic stress work. So I just wanted to introduce everyone. And before we go further, again, over to Terry Duffield. Terry, this is raw. You know, we just kind of want to hear your experience, and the intent here for our listeners and supporters is to hear how, you know, one of the toughest guys from our community was able to work the problem and work his way out of the darkest depths of spiritual and mental crisis to be a successful businessman, family man, and a man of God. So this is a huge success story. Terry, thank you for considering coming on today. Over to you, brother.
Well, my story starts, as a kid in Seattle, Washington. And I don't want to get on tangents today, which I have a tendency to do. But, we don't do a very good job in all of our communities. We accept PTSD as a combat thing. And I think if you look into a lot of I'm talking about myself, but there's probably more. You can usually trace a lot of this stuff to childhood, long before the guy ever joins and ends up in one of the, tier units. Usually there's a lot of the time, there's some pretty rough childhoods. The ability to endure pain, the ability to not quit, the ability to suffer, and that need for a family. If you come from an abusive household, boy, are you made for spec ops, right? I mean, seriously. And there was a lot of us, in the old Second Force where I was. I wish that was delved into deeper for a lot of people. They start their whole PTSD experience with, the military. And as I go on with my story, I'll tell you, I had one person who I think was sent by God, who actually took the time to go into all the way to the back end. And I think that was critical in my where I ended up. So I was a normal guy, a lot of athletics, was a pretty good football player, a pretty tough kid, went in the Marine Corps because I figured it was the hardest. And I figured there'd be a family there. And to give you this, I don't want to get into the war story type stuff, but I was on a deployment in the Grunts. I was a mortarman and I was a Lance Corporal, busted. I had a few office hours in my day in the 80s and 90s. And I went in the Marine Corps to be a Force Recon Marine. I did not go in the Marine Corps to be a Marine, although it's my greatest pride today is that I'm a Marine. I went in to be a Force Recon Marine, and they wouldn't take Lance Corporals. So I talked Gunny Alonzo, who some of you know, I'm sure, and I kind of BS'd him into the fact that I was going to pick up Corporal soon, and I got a waiver. And I forgot to tell him one small truth. And the truth was I couldn't swim 5 meters. So I went to the Force Recon Indoc with 2nd Platoon, Dupree and Tiny Gardner and all these Ted Randall and all these legends and Carlos Butts. And I couldn't swim at all. And I lied for 4 months on the deployment. So we got to the pool, and it was an all-day deal out in Naples, with some other stuff involved. And I had camis on, and I was terrified. And I jumped in the pool and I dog paddled 300 meters, like literally dog paddled. And at the end of it, I was gassed because I was second in the whole run behind Oaks, another guy you guys might know. And I started drowning, not the fake drowning where I'm splashing the water. I was drowning. And they jumped in and they pulled me out of the water and they put me on the side of the pool. Gunny Alonso was heated because I'd lied to him and I couldn't swim. And they said, your indoc's over. And I said, oh, really? And I dove back in the water. And they pulled me out of the water again. And I dove back in the water 3 times. And the last time I started fighting the platoon. And Gunny Alonso, they pulled me out of the water. Actually, the last time they left me in the water for a while so I would calm down. They pulled me out of the water and they said, you know, what's your deal? And I said, I'm going to die before I fail this indoc. I just can't swim. And they said, all right, knucklehead, if you can do the rest of this stuff and finish in the top 3, we'll take you. So I am the only guy during my time period, the late 80s, that made it in that company as a Lance Corporal and a guy that couldn't swim a lick. And they took me in there after my indoc. So I don't know if that's an extreme personality or if I just wouldn't quit. You know, I don't know. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But to this day, I'm proud, you know, that I followed through, because without this organization and without guys like you, Pep, and I wouldn't be here right now, because the Brotherhood's actually what pulls me through in this story. Not any, you know, VA or it's the people that I served with. So I had a good run in the company. I was a 30-minute sleep guy, you know, 20 beers and garrison guy, you know, run, jump, swim, you know, we were all animals. I was probably a little bit more on the drinking side. And I think in today's age, I would be pulled out and counseled and labeled an alcoholic. And probably I would have had to make a quick decision early on. Back then, you know, there was a pride, and we could drink at lunch. I mean, we could go over to have a couple beers at the bowling alley at lunch. It was Marine Corps regs. And we drank hard. And, you know, I prided myself on that. I got in trouble for it, but because I could function strong, a lot of things were overlooked that probably should have been, if I had some different people, I probably wouldn't have got away with it, but I did. And I ended up a team leader in Somalia and doing the first MUSOC Black Gear Ops ever. I had a really strong Force Recon career, and I got out in '95 because back then we had to do a B-billet. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't think I could go back to the regular fleet. If it's right or wrong, that's who I was. And so I got out, and I wanted to be a football coach. I got out with a super heavy drinking issue. And early on, upon getting out, this is way back in '95, I wasn't running 10 miles a day anymore. Real soon, and those 20 beers a night were continuous. And it started to make a dent early on who I had in relationships, the things that I did. Wasn't into drugs or anything yet. And I went up the coaching ladder because of my background. It was a perfect fit. I went from high school to Division 1A football in 5 years and was coaching in a Sugar Bowl for the University of Hawaii in 2007. Within 5 years, I was already at that level, like a lot of things we do. And had a blowout with a defensive coordinator the night before the Sugar Bowl, went out all night and walked away from football, started a fly fishing business in Hawaii that everyone thought was ridiculous. And I was guiding 250 days a year within 2 years and partying as hard as I possibly can. It just got worse and worse and worse. That's how addicts roll. This is way before anything bad really happened. I was already in that mode. And the theme of my whole talk today is quitting, which sounds ludicrous to anybody in our community. It's literally quitting. I did not have the ability in my DNA to stop, even when I needed to stop, because I looked at it as quitting. And I know that's a pretty simplistic way to not have much common sense, but I really could not accept quitting in any part of my life. So if there was 7 beers left, I had to drink them. Well, I'm only going to have 19 minutes sleep before my clients show up. I made it happen. And somehow I did that for almost 10 years and was in a volatile relationship. And like a lot of things when it comes to substance abuse, you can fool people for a long time, and then one day the wheels come off. And the wheels came off for me. Some things happened in my family, and I went and I reacted to it. And just like that, I was looking at 15 years in prison, and lost everything, literally everything. My kids, there was a vicious divorce, and a judge in Hawaii named Edward Kubo, whose dad was in the mighty 442, the legendary Nisei Regiment. I just feel blessed to even know his dad. I got to meet his dad. He stepped in and he ran this veterans court program. Because my offenses were so violent, he really couldn't accept me into his program, but he didn't want me to go to prison because he really didn't think what I did was completely unreasonable. So I went back, and this is where my story really starts. I went back to Leeds, Massachusetts, to a VA hospital where I was forced to stay for 6 months. And I got there, I don't know, I'm 5'9". When I ran in the company, I was probably 5'9", 190. I think I was 270 when I showed up in Massachusetts. Just a fat, drugged out slob of a human being, and didn't believe in anything. My soul was black. And I got put in serious young combat vets we had barracks, and these kids had seen a lot in different infantry divisions around the world. They were mostly Army. They were all heavy opiate users. I was a stimulant and drinking guy. And I learned more in the first week in the VA about where I had to go. After that, a lot of it was, I didn't need the full 6 months, but I took it all in. I learned early on that the truth of what I was facing was quitting. I had to quit. And my entire life, there's like 2 different peaks and valleys, all substance related, was due to me not wanting to quit. And it's a common theme. I didn't know how to quit without losing who I thought that I was. And there's a lot of bravado and arrogance in that world too, that some of it may be justified. A lot of it was a bunch of BS, we're bulletproof. Yeah, right. So I did the time in the VA, and I started out, I couldn't walk 2 blocks without being gassed. Yeah, this is the big force recon guy who never quits. I couldn't walk down to the end of the street, literally, when I first started. And I was still arrogant about it at the time. I remember thinking back and I going, just give me a couple more days and I'll be back running. It doesn't work that way. It ended up being a year's process. So the first thing I will say in this recovery concept is, number one, love yourself, which is hard, but give yourself time. We tend to be extremists. I was, for sure. And your first day back to the gym, it's not 3:15 for 5 bench day. It's not. No, you got to start from scratch as a human being, as you're working out, everything. And I literally had to start from scratch. As I was in this program, at times I felt like I don't really need to be here because I could do this on my own. And finally, this instructor or counselor, she grabbed me one day and she goes, "Hey, do you want to go do this specific program? I just got certified in it. You seem like a likely candidate. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm here for 6 months. I'll do every program you got. Because I had to go back to 3 years in Veterans Court in Hawaii after that. So I sat down in this program, and I'm terribly embarrassed to not know what it is. I could look it up. And what the premise of this program is, you take the most traumatic event in your life. You talk about it for the first time. And then for 8 weeks, you continue to talk about that specific event, the most traumatic event in your life, and you keep talking about it. It was called CPT, I believe. And the most traumatic event in my life wasn't being rocketed, it wasn't being mortared. It was when I was a young child. And I had a situation where, I had a lot of drinking in the house. And, this is blunt. I don't really care who's listening. I think it could maybe help someone. I shit myself, deathly sick, when I was about 6 years old. And I laid in it for 10 hours because I was afraid to cry for help, because I thought that I'd be beaten for it. That's, to me, was worse than being rocketed and worse than anything I'd ever suffered in the military. And I also think it made me mean, and it pushed me to where I ended up. And that was the event. So we talked about it for 8 weeks. And at the end of the 8 weeks, we were all the way into relationships. And this one night, this worst event, how it affected me in every aspect of my life, all the way through my life, right? And is the stuff I could have talked about? Yeah, I probably could have talked to her. I probably could have given her 30 more, right? But that was the worst one. And at the end of the 8 weeks, was I healed? No, that's ridiculous. However, all of a sudden, everything made sense. Like it made sense. Because when you think you're broken and you don't really have a reason why, everything you're doing makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Is that ridiculous sounding? But why am I doing this shit? Hello? I'm sorry, I had a call come in. Sorry about that. But you're like, why am I doing this stuff again and again? And what broken record? Well, it all made sense. And I've been sober by then for a good while. I didn't really have a massive struggle. And I was the kind of guy that had a quarter ounce of Coke on the table, and I'd be bleeding all over the floor after 4 days and 96 hours of zero sleep. And I'd stick my face in that pile and bleed in it and keep trying to snort it, because I wasn't a quitter. I was going to keep going and show everyone, how tough I was. I was that kind of addict at one time. But when I quit the substances, I'd finally I was broken, and I'm not a suicide guy. Now, those that are, I wish I could be there to stop them. I never thought about that one day in my life. However, I was killing myself indirectly with my actions. And so, let's not fool anybody here. The way I was living was kind of a death wish, right? So I'm not a judge anybody guy. But on July 3rd, after I was arrested and I lost everything, and I don't want to get into the God thing, because each man's journey is his own spiritual journey. I'd love to talk to anybody about my spirituality if they want to share it, but I don't ever want to force or try to think anybody thinking that because I believe in Christ, that you have to believe in Christ. I'd love it if y'all did, but it's your own journey, and I like to keep it that way, right? But I went to an AA meeting, and I got the book. And then I studied Dr. Bob and Bill intimately, and I came to the conclusion that the entire AA program, which is free, is 30 to 40 years of showing up at meetings to continue to stay sober, if you want. But that the whole premise of the program was to get on your knees and ask God, take this affliction from me. And I did it. I tried it. And I haven't had a drink or even a thought of any kind of substances since July 3rd, going on 6 years this year. So that's my personal experience. It doesn't mean that anybody out there needs to follow Terry Duffield and get on their knees and expect it to work. In my case, for whatever reason, a very loving and just God took the affliction from my shoulders. I've had to keep working it, keep getting to the core, but I was blessed in that respect. And I'm sure there's someone out there that's calling bullshit on that. That's their right too. I fully understand that. But my wife and this beautiful family are testament to what God did for me on my addiction. And I had to go to meetings every night for 3 years. And I learned so much in the meetings about myself. Someone would come in there literally pissing themselves off the street and guaranteed they had something to say that was me. Even now today, I don't go to meetings every day. I'm not a big AA guy. I would help someone if they needed it. But every now and then I will drop in on a meeting, just walk right in and just to listen, because it keeps me humble and it makes me remember when I had a bloody face and a pile of coke and I was a piece of shit. It makes me remember where I came from and how fast I could go back if I don't honor my program in every way and be honest with my family. So that's kind of the addiction thing in a nutshell. But I got through the program, and when I came out of the program in Leeds, I lived in my truck for about 3 months. I was a pretty successful fly fishing guide and football coach. You can look me up all over the internet. I was one of the most well-known fly fishing guides in the world for years, did TV shows, and I was successful. And here I was living in a beat up truck with my dog, and for about 2 months I lied and told everyone in the program I was in I had an apartment. I didn't have an apartment. One day this girl I knew in grade school calls me up and says, "Do you need help taking care of your dog?" I was in grade school with her in Seattle, Washington, and a whole bunch of miraculous things happened. But in the end, we ended up talking and started seeing each other. I'll give you, I'm kind of bouncing around, but I'll give you a story. So I had this beater car on 24% interest because my credit cards were shot from the divorce. It barely ran. My truck actually literally fell apart as I was driving it to trade it in. And I had this crummy Nissan, the worst car I've ever driven. And I had to be at 5, because I was now back in Veterans Court. I had to be at 5 meetings a week. I mean, long meet, 3-4 hours and training, blah, blah, blah. And this car was dying. And I got home to a crummy apartment I was renting. It was super expensive. I was eating on a hot plate. And I called my now wife and I said, "Hey, can you say a prayer for me tonight?" And she's like a spiritual warrior, tough. And she's like, "Well, of course, what do we got to pray about?" And I go, "Well, my car is going to die. I owe $9,000 on it, 24% interest. And I won't be able to get to all my stuff for Veterans Court." And by then I'd done everything perfect for 2 years almost, right? And now here comes the wheels are falling off now. I've got pictures of all this. I think I've shown them to Pep there. But so I go to bed that night and I just said, "Hey, God, can you just, I'm not asking for a new car. I'm not going to do that. But I'm asking for some help here because I'm in big trouble. I'm about to lose all the work I've done." So 3:00 in the morning, there's a loud crash outside. And I walk outside and, Hawaii, best people on planet Earth. And one of the neighbors from us says, "Hey, Bretto, I'm so sorry about your car." And I'm dancing in the streets and they think I'm crazy, right? Well, there was no wind, not a mile, nothing. And a giant tree, the roots died under the tree and it uprooted at 3 a.m. and smashed the car, destroyed the car. You can't make it up. I can't make that up. They took it in, they totaled it. I got a Jeep. I limped through the rest of the program to graduate, and I made it through the program. During the program, I leaned on the brotherhood. I was always a be there for everybody guy, the best I could. Jimmy Thompson, Pep, Strike David, all these guys helped me out in many ways. Whether it be, a couple of guys sent me some cash one time because I was living out of my truck. I didn't have any food. And day by day, I got stronger. My faith got stronger. I got sober. For all you guys out there that have been doing a lot of substances, like I said, love yourself, be kind to yourselves, eat good. Remember that your brain has been damaged on a CTE level. I mean, you have a damaged brain. It took me a full year before I started to see the world with hope. How crazy does that sound? I was an angry dude. I mean, I was an angry cat. I would fight you right now when I was in the company and when I was a coach. I'd fight. I would fight you right now. Let's go. I don't care why. And after a year of being sober, all of a sudden, I'll hug you anywhere. You know, that was the difference. Oh, you want a hug? I'm a hugger. Come on, let's get it in. Let's bring it in. Let's talk about 1 year difference. My entire brain chemistry changed without medication. I refused to take medication. The second time around, I don't want to get on another tangent. Many years before, I was in the VA for some stuff in Seattle, a big fight many years before. They put me on Depakote. I trusted the doctors. I still love my VA doctors. I'm not saying I trusted. Within 8 weeks, I'd gained 52 pounds. I was a mess. And our suicide was so shocking in the military. My personal feeling, once again, for the 5th time, this is nobody else's, this is my opinion. I've learned that in the VA, they do a terrible job of taking the veteran aside and saying to him, here's the deal, bud. You can drink or you can take the psychotropics or the meds. You can't mix them. If you mix them, you'll put a gun in your mouth. You can't do both. And so being in this around, you know, SEALs, Rangers, Force, I mean, all my SF, I mean, all these guys I'm in touch with and hang out with. I can't tell you over the years how many guys have been on all these psychotropics that the VA and the Fazodone and blah, 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 Wellbutrin and Trazodone and all these different things. And they still go out and pop the pops because they think that drinking is going to help them, when we all know it kills your sleep and all that. So we got a lot of guys out there that are self-medicating with VA meds and drinking with the meds. Actually, that should be one of the first things that we actually ask our brothers when he gets into crisis. We need to get in his medicine cabinet and look in his fridge. And if there's drugs in the medicine cabinet from the VA and beer in the fridge, you got a major league problem and he needs to be shipped out right away, because he's not going to stop and he hasn't taken the message on that you can't drink on that stuff. Sorry for the roundabout tangent, but you know, I'm not into blaming the VA for suicides. I'm not into blaming combat for suicides or the military. And I'm not into blaming the veterans. I'm not into blame. I'm into reality and fact-based programs to help each other. And we don't do a good job of passing that through the communities, that if you're on that stuff, you can't drink. All right. I mean, I'm telling you, I've seen it firsthand. But you know, I decided no meds as I went through all this, just God and prayer. And, you know, I got trees falling on cars and this beautiful lady that wants me in her life when I'm living in a truck. And I mean, it just, one thing happened after another. And in the end, I have this amazing family. We're like the Brady Bunch. We brought 2 different families together. And she's strong enough to keep my ass in line. You know, I'm a little, she's over there. I'm a little afraid of her sometimes. It's not a bad, she's laughing. It's not a bad thing, right? I'd be a little afraid of her. And we have a phenomenal business. I have a son who's one of the top lacrosse players in the country. He's doing great. And fingers crossed, goes to West Point on the 23rd for their top prospect day. What an honor that would be for a Force Recon knucklehead sergeant like me to have a kid at West Point. I mean, that's God right there. That'd be an honor. He's on the cusp too, it looks like. I've helped a lot of guys. A lot of guys don't want my message. That's okay too. There's no magic bullet. It's kind of like working out, right? How'd you get so strong? I busted my ass. I worked at it. Took 5 years. There was no magic bullet. There was no magic God. Corps and country. I went back to the basics that the Marine Corps taught me. I really did. And then lastly, I think I'll end this with is I can't stress this enough. If you're sitting somewhere, and I never was at this point, and you're on that crisis, when I was in a crisis, I'd go get a massive amount of blow and go 5 days. Now that could have killed me, but I didn't have to ever kill myself. I went around the axle. But the bottom line is when you really do know when you need to quit. I mean, nobody in our communities is dumb. Or the GTs in our community we're the 120 guys. I was never in a team with any moron. I was never in a team with a guy that wasn't street smart. I'm just telling you right now. So I told Pep this the other day. I don't think we do the best job sometimes of calling our own brothers on their own bullshit. I was called heavily. When I asked for help, the guys that came in to help me from the old Force Recon community came in heavy-handed. Yeah, I'll help you, but you better pull your head out of your ass. You're a mess. You don't get a free pass. We'll give you some time, but you better get it together, bud. We have standards. I wouldn't even invite you to my house right now with my wife and kids. That's the kind of stuff that had an impact on me, right? But in the end, you have to be willing to quit. And we don't do a good job in any of these therapy situations in the VA amongst ourselves. We don't seem to want to understand that these animals, these organisms, they don't have it in their DNA. The reason they're so spun out and they're staying awake on 14-day meth benders, a guy I helped, believe it or not, he doesn't have the ability to quit. His brain doesn't even think that way. So you're going up to the guy and going, you're a mess like me, right? You need to quit. All flags go up and you've lost him. You want me to be a pussy and quit? No, that's not what I mean. I want you to quit killing yourself. You want me to quit? No. I want you to quit killing yourself, your family, your community, and everything else. You just got to quit this one thing. Well, I ain't quitting. There's no way I'm quitting. Once I realized that all I had to do was quit one thing. Now, I had a fear now. I actually had a fear that if I quit doing drugs and alcohol, I would start quitting everything else. Remember how we were told that when we were young troops? Once you quit one thing, you walk out of the school, you're going to quit the rest of your life. Well, I took that to heed, right, from my old dudes. And now I was worried, if I quit this, I'm a quitter. I'm going to be a quitter the rest of my life. You know what? I came out of quitting drugs and alcohol the strongest I've ever been as a human being, because I realized there's more important stuff, like family and God and all the things that I have in my life now. All I had to do was quit one thing. That's all I had to do. And I had all this support from God and family to do it. And in the end, it was a lot of work and a lot of time, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. It really wasn't. So that's about it, man. I mean, I'm sure I'm a common story. I'm sure my story is no different than anybody else's. It's not real exciting. It's kind of like just a bunch of elbow grease and God and working hard, I even got I got some strength back. I'm 53 and I'm throwing up over 315 now. I can run 3-5. I can jog 5 miles a day. It's ugly. It's probably a 10-minute mile. Don't anybody ever come see me. All these ladies blow me away, but it's all right. But I've accepted all that, right? I'm okay with that. I'm just happy that I get to be part of a family and I can call a Pep Tablada or somebody that I love. And when I call my brothers now, I don't call them under them in my mind. I'm on equal footing with any man that walks the planet right now. And all I got to do is continue doing what I'm doing. And my son looks up, my kids look up to me. I have stepkids. I drive my wife batshit crazy, but she loves me, and I can accept everything now. And I can accept I'm not Superman. I can accept there's things I can't do. So quitting humbled me. It made me far less mission capable, if that makes sense. But I'm far more capable on the mission in life now. And I can really live life now, and I can help other people now. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not full of shit. I don't tell guys, you should do this and then open a bottle of fucking Jack and start pounding like I used to. I would tell you all day how to live your life. Now I just say, well, I can't tell you how to live your life, but I'll show you where God is. He's not hard to get a hold of, and I can talk about help you take you to a meaning, but I'm not Superman. That's the theme of all this thing. I'm not Superman. I'm just another dude who was blessed enough to walk with giants and serve with the baddest and the best and the toughest and the fastest guys in the world. I was just a broken kid, and luckily the Forced Recon family let me in. And in the end, they're who healed me. All you need is in this tribe right here. That's all I got, Pep.
All right, brother. Hey, man, listen, first, thank you for, being real, right? I mean, you laid it out there. It's not a pretty story. This is not, it's something that we all know, that fellow veterans of every service, of every, man or woman over the last 20 years of combat for sure, are dealing with things, and yours is an incredible success story, because I walked with you for portions of this. I remember, working actions to try to get you employed and things to get you back on your feet. And I see where you are now, and just me as your friend, I'm proud of you, man. And you have a beautiful family. Your wife is a hammer, and I think she was probably the saving grace. So, for everyone listening, before I turn over to other guys, I mean, what I took away from that was, you have to surrender yourself, and it is whatever surrender means for you to get past the afflictions that you are dealing with. Is it alcohol? Is it faith? Is it substance? Is it something else? But surrendering yourself in order to restart and be better, through family, through faith of whatever type, through friends, community, in our case, teammates. And you're an incredible success story, and I'm just proud to know you, man. So thanks for that, brother. I'll turn it over to some of the other guys on here if you guys got any comments.
Hey, can I say one last thing? Like I said in the talk, don't be afraid. Don't be content looking at your combat time. Don't be afraid to look back to when you're a youngster and start there when you start your PTSD journey. It'll help you.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hey, Terry. Hey, brother. Thank you. And, simply, hey, I love you. Because you've taken the courage to wrap all of that up and to share it. And it takes an amazing human, takes an amazing warrior to do that, right? And so there's so many nuggets of knowledge you just provided. The key one I think I take away from it is don't quit, and don't quit on yourself. That's just powerful, right? To turn that around and have any of these soldiers, Marines, to listen to that. Don't quit on yourself, right? Yeah, the mission's important, everything else, but don't quit on yourself. And then, the aspect of the Marine needing a family, that's the same here. I grew up in the streets of Hialeah in Miami as an immigrant. And I had to branch off growing up, and going into the Marine Corps was that bridge. I wanted that family, I wanted that discipline. And so, thank you for sharing that, because it hits home, right? And then the childhood, just recently, as Pep said, I just recently retired. And 20 years of constantly sitting behind psychiatrists that are evaluating. But as of recent, in my own journey and going back and dealing with PTSD, TBI, the loss of a lot of friends, and opening my Pandora's box, they all start by going back to your childhood. And it used to irritate me to be asked the same questions. But then now I look back and those little things in my childhood, I can see it interconnect to a teenager and then wanting to go into Marine Corps, and then how those street smarts and those emotions got me through combat. And then now I'm circling back to my childhood and kind of cleaning it up a little bit. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's what I've got. And again, hey, Semper Fi, I love you. Thank you for that candid and introspective and humanistic talk you just gave us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Terry. Yeah, thanks, man. I just wanted to pile on what Eric was saying. I think he brought up helping other guys and being, really exemplifying the family that, dude, I have friends all over the special operations community, etc. But it's funny because I've been through some pretty cringy shit. And it's funny because a lot of those dudes walked, but my recon brothers never did. Not one. Go back to that, man. And one thing that I realized, and I don't have my shit together right now, it's not, I don't think you ever but it takes a while. It takes a while. And I've been through some hell. But coming out of it, yeah, it's not an overnight thing. And that's what we expect, the special operations community, etc. A strike, you get everything done as fast as you can, and then you get off the objective. So I can totally understand that. But one of the things that helped me out, for one, is getting tired of my own shit, like you guys were talking about, realizing, Jason, you're feeding yourself a line of crap. And secondly, I noticed that when I started coming out of it, I started helping people in that family. And that is a really good sign for recovery, for one. And if you're not reaching out and helping other people, man, do it. It's so cathartic. Because you have to think about your own shit in context with theirs. I know I isolated myself for years because, frankly, I got tired of telling everyone when they'd call me, hey, how you doing? I hated that question because I wasn't doing good. And I got tired of talking about my pain and hearing it again because I knew it well. I was going through it all. But don't isolate. Reach out, and you don't even have to, spill your guts to your buddies. Just stay in contact with them. That's gonna naturally kind of evolve in a conversation where things are going to come up and people are going to notice things about, your behavior, your habits or whatever, and come up beside you and help you, pull your head out of your ass. And it helps. It really is encouraging to see your brothers succeed and overcome this stuff too. I mean, that's what it was. And you're in a recon team. I've said it before. We, especially during the training and the ramping up to becoming a fully qualified recon guy, I hate to say it, but when dudes would be weak, we didn't really want them on our team because the greatest strength is you carrying your weight so your buddy doesn't have to carry it for you. Be that example to each other, just like in combat where you look at the guy next to you and well, he doesn't look scared because he's totally faking the funk. He's terrified as shit. But you look at him and you're like, well, he ain't scared, so I ain't scared. Those are the things that have really kind of helped me be on the upswing coming out of where I have been. And one last thing, I think, we have this drive in us where no matter what, I'm going to keep going. It's been brought up, but there's a difference between overcoming pain and overcoming injury. If your leg is broke and you keep running on it, it ain't going to do you any good. This accomplish the mission. You can't accomplish the mission if you're dead. So, and combat, PTSD, and guys with physical injuries like TBI, you can't gut that stuff out. You have to heal, and healing takes time. It just does. And Terry, thanks for, and that's one thing that I had a hard time with is, why am I not better already? But thank you, so
Jason,
much.
if I could add to that, though, I'll tell you that reconnecting with you physically in Montana 5.5 months ago, and you connecting with our teammates, brothers, and our families, and where you are today, my observation, amazing.
Yeah, you're right, man. That if you can go on a road trip, see your brothers face to face. You're right, Pep. That actually was a big turning point for me. And reaching out and saying, I do need help. Now, I remember in boot camp, the drill instructors used to make fun of you if you needed help, like, you need my help, you need my assistance, because they wanted to make you say yes and shame you. So you do need help. But the best way to do that is absolutely the face-to-face thing. Stay in touch, however you can. But if you can get out and just hang with your brothers, that's been a huge help for me as well. And now, like Pep said, my book's coming out. It's on Amazon now. Things have really 180 for me. And because of a lot of all this stuff together, it's just not just one thing. But anyway, I'll shut up now. Thanks again, Terry, and you guys. Good chatting with you again about this stuff.
Hey, William, you got anything that your experience that you would like to add before we close this out?
No, I just want to say thank you to Terry. There's so much, obviously, Pep, as you might imagine, in this Terry, you telling your story that resonates with me and why we exist. I think fundamentally this, challenge of, not discussed this way today, but elsewhere, this challenge of being willing to take a knee. And I think fundamentally that's what a lot of this boils down to. And it's so, powerful to see this generation starting to discuss, how important that is. And I think that I was on another podcast recently discussing this. I think there's some anecdotal evidence that culture is shifting somewhat certainly within the veteran community, but it's boiling down within, or it's influencing the active duty community, just because there's so many people that have been burned down so bad. But fundamentally, there are still, unfortunately, these structural challenges, institutional challenges for many that still exist in seeking support. But I was discussing this with some command resources at NSW, and I was going through our kind of 4 primary barriers to entry, geography, bureaucracy, trust, not wanting to talk to your doctor, and then a desire for privacy or anonymity. And this individual said there's a 5th. There's can you just get over yourself? Can you just make the decision yourself to seek help? And, in many ways that can be, I think, Terry's story today, pretty clearly demonstrates that can be the biggest barrier. But it's just more people like Terry telling the story and shifting a culture that historically, has not been about self-care and taking a knee to drive a culture that is, more inclined to say, yeah, okay, I'm ready to raise my hand and say something's going on here, which of course is what, Sound Up's all about. So thank you, Terry.
Yep.
Thank you, brother. So, in closing, it's, this dialogue is a tough one because it resonates with all of us in our own ways and our own experiences and the effects it has had on our friends and teammates and their families. We all have seen bad endings to this same story, and what it has, the toll it's taken on, children, parents, spouses, teammates. And so, for all of our friends and teammates out there that are listening, right, there is a way. Terry's is not trying to build a roadmap. He's simply communicating about his way, his path. But what I will tell you is that there are tools out there for all of us to use, at different stage of crisis, from, kind of just day-to-day friction and conflict, moving towards, destructive behavior, and that could be substance abuse, that could be anger, whatever, all the way to, the consideration of suicide, right? So everyone, think about where you are in those stages, if this is applicable to you, and think about how you can address, acknowledge the problem, and think about how you can get after it before you move right in the spectrum into the crisis stage. I will tell you on behalf of my family, the Tablada family, and separately on behalf of the Reconnaissance Foundation, we're here. A lot of teammates like Terry, JMO, they know we're here as friends and as an organization. If someone out there is needing help, reach out to us and let's figure out how we might get to yes on that. So if there are no further comments, I appreciate you guys all for the time you've taken today. This is an important discussion, and we'll talk to you all soon.